Along our journey through Baldur's Gate, we will inevitably encounter a vast array of characters and enemies who are not only powerful but also deeply memorable, each leaving their mark on the unfolding story. However, if we were to create a list that highlights those who truly stand out due to their extraordinary abilities, their commanding presence, and their overall impact on the narrative, these would undoubtedly be the ones to mention. In this video, I want to focus specifically on the game itself as an interactive experience, rather than delving into the entirety of Dungeons & Dragons lore, which is vast and complex, and would require a much longer, more detailed exploration than we can undertake in a single video or discussion. Additionally, I will set aside the gods for the purposes of this overview, concentrating solely on the characters as they exist and manifest within the game. So make yourself comfortable, and let's begin. I believe it is most appropriate to begin this list with the Dark Urge, as there is simply no disputing the fact that he is among the most powerful in Baldur's Gate 3. This is not only due to the remarkable feats and challenges he can accomplish throughout the course of the game, but also because of the weight and depth of his backstory, which adds layers of complexity to his power and presence. The Dark Urge is a unique origin character, one who embodies the very essence of Bhaal, the god of murder. To put it simply, this character was literally created from a fragment of a god's own essence, which immediately establishes him as something beyond ordinary mortals. In essence, he is one of the infamous Bhaalspawn, individuals who are born with an inherent compulsion toward acts of murder, a force within them that is impossible to completely ignore or erase. Regardless of whether the player chooses to follow or resist these dark impulses, his story carries tremendous weight, as it details the journey of someone who is adopted by a seemingly loving couple in Baldur's Gate, only to ultimately succumb to his violent nature, murdering his adoptive parents in a dark, fated act that defines his path. Among the many abilities that make the Dark Urge a force to be reckoned with, one of the most notable is the Slayer form, a transformative power that allows him to become a brutal, almost unstoppable creature. In this state, he gains enhanced combat abilities, increased physical strength, greater resistance to damage, and a terrifying bloodthirst that grants bonuses whenever his enemies are wounded or bleeding. The direct connection to Bhaal ensures that his powers are not merely mortal but approach the divine, making him an overwhelming and almost unstoppable presence in any conflict he faces. Moving forward in the list, we come to Elminster, often celebrated as the Sage of Shadowdale, who is widely regarded as one of the most powerful and accomplished wizards. Elminster's story is equally compelling. Once a thief and adventurer of humble origins, he eventually became the chosen of Mystra, the goddess of magic herself, a distinction that granted him both extended longevity and magical powers beyond the comprehension of most mortals. Over the centuries, he has been intricately involved in countless events across the realms, often assuming the role of mentor, guide, or advisor for other adventurers and heroes. In practical terms, this makes him someone who commands magic with unparalleled mastery, enhanced further by divine blessings that elevate his abilities beyond mere mortal understanding. While the game may not always allow players to see Elminster's full range of power directly, references and comments made by characters such as Gale and others provide a clear sense of the magnitude of his strength, painting a picture of a wizard whose influence and skill are truly unmatched. Then we have Withers, a mysterious being with a skeletal appearance, who introduces himself as a keeper of records. His affiliation is tied to the Church of Jurgal, and although we do not know much about him in detail, what we do know is that he possesses the extraordinary ability to resurrect our fallen companions. Moreover, during the final scene of the game, it can be interpreted that he is in fact a direct manifestation of the god Jurgal himself. For those who might not know, this god was the one who once relinquished his divine authority to the Dead Three, essentially elevating them into the powerful gods we now encounter in Baldur's Gate 3, Bhaal, Bane, and Myrkul. That is why, without a doubt, and even though I initially said that I was not going to include gods in this list, in this particular case, I am willing to make an exception. We are well aware that he cannot be harmed in any way throughout the game, which already sets him apart as an untouchable figure. In addition, his role as the custodian of records places him in a privileged position, granting him access to immense knowledge regarding the divine background of the world and the hidden forces that govern its destiny. This deep wisdom makes him an influential and almost omnipresent entity, even if he does not always intervene directly in matters of weaponry, combat, or the struggles that we as mortals face. Continuing onward, Nightsong emerges as another remarkable figure, the daughter of the moon goddess herself. Within the game, we learn that she was imprisoned in the Shadowfell by General Ketheric Thorm during the 14th and 15th centuries, a fate that demonstrates both her vulnerability and her enduring resilience. As a celestial being, Nightsong is effectively immortal, free from the limitations and frailties that constrain mortal life, which alone sets her apart as a formidable character. Among her abilities, one of the most notable is her lunar aura, a power that simultaneously weakens her enemies while strengthening and protecting her allies, a duality that makes her a strategic powerhouse in combat. In addition to this, she possesses the Divine Strike, a devastating attack infused with celestial power. In summary, her direct connection to the Moon Goddess not only grants her significant combat advantages, but also situates her as a figure whose very presence can alter the dynamics of battle and story alike. Next, we must discuss Vlaakith, a character whose ambition and power are equally terrifying and fascinating. She aspires to divinity, wielding the kind of power one might associate with a lesser deity, yet her abilities extend beyond mere ambition. Immortal and commanding the loyalty of a devoted race of fanatical followers, she exerts influence on multiple planes simultaneously. I decided to be somewhat flexible in interpretation here, as her status and abilities blur conventional categories, but this does not diminish the fact that she is extraordinarily powerful. Attempting to outsmart her in conversation can have catastrophic consequences, often resulting in an instant death for the player, a fact I confirmed through careful experimentation. She is the eternal ruler of the Githyanki, overseeing their operations across all planes and actively searching for a stolen, mysterious artifact of immense power. As a lich and a master of arcane magic, she has honed her abilities in necromancy and transmutation, complemented by psionic powers that allow her to control and manipulate others with remarkable ease. When combined with her leadership skills and the vast army she commands, Vlaakith becomes not merely a character but a monumental force within the game's narrative, whose presence cannot be ignored. Initially, I had not intended to include Raphael on this list, but ultimately, it is impossible to overlook him. Defeating Raphael proved to be a significant challenge, and his role in the game is as fascinating as it is dangerous. As the son of Mephistopheles, archdevil of Cania, the 8th layer of the 9 hells, Raphael is a cambion, a creature that is half mortal and half demonic. This lineage grants him authority and power, far exceeding that of most other devils, and he possesses the ability to consume souls to augment his infernal powers, giving him access to an even more deadly array of spells and abilities. The overload of souls does not limit his capacity to wield these powers, meaning that his offensive and magical capabilities are virtually without limit. Beyond his raw power, Raphael's intelligence, cunning, and ability to manipulate psychologically make him a multifaceted threat, one whose presence demands both strategic thinking and careful planning from any who would oppose him. And finally, while one could argue that the Dead Three might deserve inclusion in this discussion, their current status as deceased entities and the fact that they were not always fully realized deities makes them better suited for a separate, dedicated analysis or video. In conclusion, in my opinion, the characters mentioned here stand out significantly within the story of Baldur's Gate 3, offering a combination of narrative depth, strategic importance, and overwhelming power. Of course, there are many other characters worthy of discussion, and if you would like a more extensive and detailed exploration of power levels, abilities, and additional characters, your feedback, likes, and subscriptions will let me know that this is something you want to see. For now, I hope to see you in the next video.